My name is Annalisa Piras.
And my name is Bill Emmett.
We made this film as a warning because we are worried about what's going on in Europe and we think we should talk about it more.
Our worry is that if Europe continues on its current path, the European Union will collapse, and that would have catastrophic consequences for all of us.
We used the fiction sequences to represent our fears for the future. The present day scenes, they're all too real.
This film reflects our personal views. Not everyone will agree with us.
But we hope it will help provoke a wider debate. Enjoy the film.
Good evening, folks. This is the captain. Just to let you know, we've got a bit of weather on the horizon, so things may be getting a little bit bumpy up ahead. We've also just been told that our destination, Berlin-Tempelhof, is having a few problems with its power supply, which may cause us a little bit more of a delay. But we'll do our best to keep you fully updated. In the meantime, Tim and the cabin crew will be happy to look after you with a great range of drinks and snacks. All stable European currencies accepted, of course with the exception of Spanish new pesetas, Greek new drachmas.
It's going to be okay, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I think so.
Are you scared?
No, I'm not scared. No, I am a bit late. In 2 hours' time, I'm supposed to be giving a speech in Berlin in a museum.
What about?
The European Union.
What's that?
If Europe were once united in the sharing of its common inheritance, there would be no limit to the happiness, to the prosperity and the glory.
Breaking news out of Ukraine. Now learned that Ukraine's military did fire ballistic missiles at rebels.
Great England Prime Minister Nigel Farage has announced the successful deportation of all immigrants who have arrived in the past 10 years or who have failed to prove.
The new president of France, Marine Le Pen, declared a state of emergency.
Greece has unilaterally cancelled all of the country's debt.
Spain is accused of saber-rattling after closing all access to Gibraltar.
Breaking news. In Berlin, in an emergency EU Council meeting, the euro has been abolished.
Rioting, looting and civil disorder is escalating across Europe after the shooting of protesters in Rome.
The EU Council President, Angela Merkel, has resigned.
Fierce fighting in Vienna, the advance of the Islamic State seems unstoppable.
It's over. The European Council has voted to abolish the European Union.
The problem is we are in the middle of a so-called perfect storm. Nobody knows where to start. That's the part of the problem. The first thing we have to do is, I think, separate the problems. First, it is a crisis of a financial system which ran totally out of hand, like a bad ghost.
If one wants to ask whether another financial crisis is possible, the answer is unquestionably yes.
It is also a crisis of European leadership. Everybody is afraid to do something because for leadership you need also generosity. And the Germans have big problems with both. This is a crisis of the European institutions. All the mistakes they have made the last 20 years come to the surface.
Il y a une colère immense et à mes yeux très largement justifiée.
There is popular outrage against the establishment, against the EU, misdirected against foreigners and immigrants.
Lo que nos falta es tiempo. El retroceso europeo tiene un punto de no reversibilidad a poca distancia. Si no se reacciona ahora, no se recuperará ni posición en el mundo, ni posición ante los ciudadanos, y ganará el nacionalismo insolidario.
It seems to me that Europe is sleepwalking towards disaster, just as it did 100 years ago in the run-up to the First World War. And like then, people are not understanding quite how devastating a collapse of the European Union would be. It would bring down the whole world economy. Trade wars, collapsing banks, huge rises in unemployment. This would be the worst economic catastrophe of a generation.
The European Union can implode. What we are now confronting is one of the most important moments in European history.
There you go.
Money? Is it worth anything?
Only to collectors, not archaeologists. I was going to use that in my talk.
The talk was about money?
It was about how Europe imploded, and that was partly to do with money. See, this is the most valuable piece of paper to have come out of the European single currency. See all these bridges? That was supposed to symbolise unity, unification, all the countries being connected. It was a great idea, but unfortunately it didn't work.
Jo crec que estem en un punt d'inflexió per Catalunya, per Espanya i per Europa. Tot i que l'economia millori, la darrera crisi deixa Espanya en una situació tràgica per milers de ciutadans, que l'exclusió social és evident a tot arreu. Però en realitat tot això va començar amb l'explosió de la bombolla immobiliària, que com a arquitecte i professor implicat en temes culturals vaig viure de primera mà i va ser l'inici de tot plegat. Moltes organitzacions de base estan tractant de donar resposta. Potser la més coneguda és la PA, la Plataforma d'Afectats per la Hipoteca.
Buenos días a todos y a todas, muchas gracias por venir. Os explico la situación. En los barrios populares como en los barrios se están produciendo de 15 a 20 desahucios semanales. La administración esto lo está ocultando. Hoy mismo aquí en los barrios sabemos que hay 7 desahucios. Ni servicios sociales ha avisado a esta familia, ni judicatura, ni nadie.
Me han quitado 200 euros de PIRMI, yo pagaba aquí 600 euros de alquiler, ahora cobro 423 euros y nada, me quieren dejar en la calle con un niño de 7 años y otro niño de 4.
España vive una situación de emergencia habitacional que no vive ningún país en Europa. Llevamos más de 500.000 ejecuciones hipotecarias en los últimos 5 años. Creo que nos queda recorrido para que en toda la Unión Europea haya conciencia realmente del drama que se está viviendo aquí.
Como distrito y como servicios sociales no hemos recibido nada, nada de nada.
¡Mentirosos!
Estamos hablando de pobreza. Estamos hablando de que la gente con 400 euros, incluso familias que no cobran nada, no pueden hacer frente ni al alquiler ni a las cosas más básicas que tienen.
¡Sí se puede! 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 ¡Sí se
Es un honor intervenir después del que va a ser el próximo presidente de Grecia. Nosotros sí que os vamos a estar mirando, compañero Alexis.
¡Sí se puede! ¡Venceremos!
The rise in Spain of Podemos has been extraordinary. They were founded only in January 2014, but they're already at the front of the opinion polls. Like their sister party Syriza in Greece, they are providing the only new hope. Their economic analysis is essentially correct.
Per mi, l'èxit de Podemos a Espanya o Syriza a Grècia, que ara treballen junts, es basa en la mateixa premissa. I és que no és just que les persones més pobres de la societat hagin de pagar per una crisi que no han causat. Jo també participo de la idea de que només des d'un canvi radical es pot fer reneixer alguna cosa interessant de les ruïnes d'aquests 6 anys d'eurocrisis, perquè hi ha un diagnòstic clar de reptes, errors i responsabilitat, i si els partits tradicionals no reaccionen, doncs és bo que moviments ciutadans es posin nerviosos.
Segueix havent-hi un sentiment de somni que té a veure amb aquesta idea de que algun dia la Unió Europea pugui ser alguna més que un mercat econòmic comú i realment pugui tots aquells valors que se suposa que estan en la seva fundació passar del paper a la realitat. Aquestes qüestions de que tothom que viu en els països europeus tingui unes condicions mínimes de benestar social també ha de passar del paper a la realitat. I no sempre crec que les polítiques públiques acompanyin aquest procés.
Europe's welfare system is the most advanced in the world, but we're losing it. We need to do more to protect it. It's being threatened by growing inequality, which is also a threat to economic growth.
C'est important d'être conscient de ça parce qu'on parle beaucoup des dettes publiques et privées européennes. C'est vrai, elles sont importantes, mais on a aussi des patrimoines, c'est-à-dire que les actifs immobiliers et financiers que les Européens possèdent, même après avoir retiré toutes les dettes, c'est 6 années de produit intérieur brut européen, c'est plus que les États-Unis. Simplement, on s'organise mal, nos institutions sont dysfonctionnelles, on a du mal à faire rentrer les impôts.
C'est pas possible. La Commission chiffre à 1000 milliards d'euros l'évasion, c'est un terme pudique, la fraude fiscale. On ne peut pas demander des efforts pour baisser les déficits et baisser la dette et en même temps laisser quelques-uns, en général les plus privilégiés d'ailleurs, placer leur argent dans des paradis fiscaux. Et là, nous avons été gravement défaillants au sein même de l'Union européenne. Je crois qu'il y a une prise de conscience, mais vous voyez qu'il faut des mesures courageuses pour faire tout ça.
the most sickening things was what happened with the banks. I mean, they were like ticking bombs waiting to go off, run with the integrity of a second-hand car dealership. So everyone knew, of course, that they could go off at any time and cause immense collateral damage, but no one would take them on, no one would reform them. You know what I mean?
Could London play a more productive role? In the financial sector, we made tremendous mistakes before the crisis, but I think we have played a moderately productive role in considering reform after the crisis. But it is certainly true that we haven't done something really radical for two basic reasons: the lack of intellectual self-confidence in such a transformation, and of course the immense power of the status quo, the sheer scale of the financial sector interest today. We still have very extended balance sheets, very large amounts of credit, public and private outstanding. If the economies go badly wrong, yes, we could certainly have another crisis.
European banks need to be cleaned up and tamed. We need to break their political power. We need a smaller, simpler, and safer financial system. European policymakers have systematically favoured the interests of powerful German and French banks, the banks that caused this crisis, over the interests of citizens as a whole.
There have been some important policy successes by the Eurozone, particularly the action by the European Central Bank.
The ECB is ready to do whatever it takes to preserve the euro. And believe me, it will be enough.
In a deflationary situation, you need a very, very aggressive central bank, QE or not QE. The Bank of England and the Federal Reserve pursued, broadly speaking, the correct monetary policy. Unfortunately, the ECB has been hamstrung, so the German resistance in the central bank should go. I also do believe that a monetary union requires some euro bonds, and I think there needs to be debt restructuring. Absolutely clear. On the present path, the risks of a breakdown are rising. So the breakup of the euro would be carnage, economically and politically, and it's quite unlikely the European Union would survive.
Who's to blame for all that? Well, the British for sure, and the French too. What about the Germans?
Auf der einen Seite möchte niemand, wie man es mal formuliert hat, ein deutsches Europa haben. Auf der anderen Seite möchten sie, dass Deutschland sehr viel klarer führt. Wie kann Deutschland sehr klar führen, wenn es dann nicht als ein deutsches Europa wahrgenommen wird? Es ist ein bisschen ein Dilemma.
Das ist ja eine ganz tolle Geschichte, denn wir sind ja doch bis vor 20, 30 Jahren eigentlich dazu erzogen worden, dass wir bitteschön alles machen sollen, bloß keine Leadership übernehmen. Nun wird uns suggestiert, dass wir das doch vielleicht tun sollten. warum fragt man uns, dass wir Leadership übernehmen sollen? Also ich würde zunächst einmal sagen, es freut uns sehr, dass die BMW überall verkauft werden und auch bezahlt werden, das wissen wir ja. Aber das deutsche Rezept funktioniert nicht in Griechenland. Der Unterschied vielleicht ist es, die Deutschen eher dazu neigen, nur das auszugeben, was sie verdient haben, während andere nun wiederum auf Pump, quasi auf Kredit, Dinge kaufen. Da kommt auch, glaube ich, die Kopflastigkeit zwischen Europa und Nordeuropa und Südeuropa her. Und das ist das große Problem.
Ich glaube schon, dass meine Generation und Jünger durchaus Schwierigkeiten hat, damit zu verstehen, warum vermeintlich sie zur Kasse gebeten werden für Dinge, die sie selber nicht verantwortet haben. Aber ich glaube auch, dass die deutsche Politik hier einen großen Fehler gemacht hat, wie im Übrigen auch die anderen Länder hier Fehler gemacht haben, wieder in der Kommunikation zu erläutern, worum geht es eigentlich. Das Bild in Europa von dem egoistischen, erfolgreichen Deutschen, der natürlich versucht, sein Reichtum zu verteidigen. Und deswegen entsteht etwas die Meinung, dass man das nicht teilen möchte. Es gibt dann dieses Bild des Onkel Fritz, der eben auf seinem Geldsatz sitzt und sagt, das behalte ich alles für mich. Ich glaube, dass die große Mehrheit in Deutschland das aber gar nicht so sieht, sondern dass man schon bereit ist, auch einen gewissen Reichtum und Wealth entsprechend zu verteilen, so wie wir das ja auch innerhalb unseres Landes tun. Und damit haben Sie recht. Ich glaube, dass Sie damit recht haben, weil dieser Wohlstand, der zwar selbst erarbeitet wurde von den Deutschen, aber er basiert doch auch auf der EU und auf den Export und die Zusammenarbeit mit den europäischen Ländern. Europa ist für uns und für die Firma natürlich sehr wichtig. Wir können diese Hochtechnologieprodukte, die wir entwickeln, für unsere Kunden und mit unseren Kunden nur durch das Netzwerk im europäischen Raum gewährleisten. Das ist schon etwas, was man gemeinsam geschaffen hat. Und ich glaube auch, dass Frau Merkel gut daran tut, dieses europäische Gefüge so weiter aufrechtzuerhalten und auch uns, den Bundesbürgern, mitzuteilen, dass wir weiter dafür auch arbeiten müssen.
Its most important trading partners remain other European countries. So if everybody cuts spending at the same time, there's not enough demand. You get deflation. You get even bigger problems with debts because you can't reduce your debt if the economy's not growing.
It might seem like it's in Germany's interest to insist that all the money that was lent to Southern Europe by German banks is paid back in full. But the consequences of that is a prolonged depression in Southern Europe that is affecting Germany too, high unemployment with potentially catastrophic social and political consequences, the rest of Europe resenting Germany, which is what Germany has tried to avoid for the past 60 years, and ultimately potentially destroying the European Union, which Germany has striven so hard to build.
Meanwhile, in Berlin, the U.S. Commissioner General Maxwell Taylor announces the release of the first ERP counterpart funds for this afflicted city.
Die heutige Freigabe von 95 Millionen Deutschmark aus dem Marshallplan Gegenwertfonds für Investitionen in Berlin ist für die Wirtschaft dieser Stadt ein bedeutsames Ereignis.
I think we've forgotten history. After 1945, America, with its Marshall Plan, rescued Germany by writing off a lot of its debt and rescued Europe with a massive public investment program.
As economic stagnation spread, more and more factories shut down. For lack of power, the Fiat plant closed, and Pietro Leone was...
Why not do it again? Let's call it a Merkel Plan. Public investment program, rebuilding infrastructure to get the economy going again. debt restructuring to help Greece, Spain and Ireland get out of the debtor's prison that they're in. It worked then, in 1945. It would work again today.
If the Eurozone fails, it will be Germans' responsibility. They cannot evade that. And it would mean that the most promising opportunity ever to unite Europe peacefully will have failed. And I think if that opportunity is gone, it might never return. Who signed up 10 years ago, 20 years, 30 years ago for Europe with the promise that you'll have a slump for 15 years? Even in Spain, the economy will not recover back to where it was in 2008 until 2018 or 2019. And I have no idea when it will happen to Italy. As things are at the moment, it's very unlikely before the 2020s.
Vorrei dire ai nostri amici l'Economist che il vero gelato italiano è il gelato artigianale e non quello confezionato.
So the Eurozone is becoming a zone of anger and mutual incomprehension. The patience is quite unlikely to last.
Do you hear the people singing a song of angry men? It is the music of the people who will not be slaves again.
The policies that have been carried out until now have not worked. 26 million people unemployed, 10 million more than in 2008.
Will you join in our crusade?
Non aux mesures d'austérité, non au dumping social, mais oui à une Europe sociale.
Nem csak mi, hanem nagyon sok ország gondolja Magyarországon kívül, hogy az Európai Unión kívül
ότι είναι απαράδεκτο τόσα χρόνια η Ευρωπαϊκή Ένωση και μάλιστα οι χώρες του ευρώ να μην υπάρχει μια ενιαία οικονομική πολιτική.
Hello again, ladies and gentlemen. I'm afraid to say that due to the German energy crisis, Berlin Tempelhof has suffered a complete power failure. So it looks as though we're being rerouted to Amsterdam Schiphol. You will need to remember to update your immigration status for the Netherlands on your virtual landing card.
Are you okay, honey? Don't worry. Your mum's been notified and all is absolutely fine. Would you like a soda?
Yes, please.
I'll have a Chinese whiskey.
Of course, sir.
You're going to miss your talk.
Yes. Well, I don't suppose anyone will be terribly upset. They weren't very worried about the EU at the time. They're even less worried now.
A bottle?
A milk bottle.
Cow's milk. Ugh.
More crucially, a Swedish milk bottle. Of the sort that they used to give school children and young mothers. The government gave them to him.
For free?
Yes, the Swedish people believed in helping those that needed help, irrespective of where they came from.
Not just Swedish people.
No, so they gave them to refugees and asylum seekers. They understood, you see, that immigration was a good thing, especially for an ageing society. Well, most of them understood.
I don't think European leaders have been good at explaining to people why immigration is necessary. It does raise welfare costs in the short term, especially immigration from outside Europe. But in the long term, we need immigration to create the economic wealth, to create the resources to keep our welfare states going.
All politik handlar om prioriteringar. Nu har du ett val. Den 19 september kan du välja invandringsbroms före pensionsbroms. Rösta på Sverigedemokraterna.
Argentina. Är bra med det?
Jag vet, jag såg det. Jag bara, Sen är jag ganska kort efter pausen, lämnar över till dig. Och sen så kommer jag upp efter dig och så lämnar jag över till oss.
Ja, perfekt.
Det blir bra, va?
Ja, det blir bra.
Ja.
Yay.
Alltså alla pratade hela tiden att herregud, det är av varje 10 svensk en har röstat på Sverigedemokraterna. Och jag bara, abbo, 9 vill att jag ska vara kvar här. Det är bra om alla 10 vill att jag ska vara här. Det är något fel på Sverige. Inte ens mina släktingar vill ha kvar mig i Iran.
Mina damer och herrar, tack för mig. Ni har varit en underbar publik.
Shakespeare sa redan i sin tid, när fattigdom kommer in genom dörren så rymmer kärleken genom fönstret. Så det är lite bråda tider, det är svåra tider, det är ekonomin klämmer och man letar efter syndabockar. Och det blir folk som kommer från andra länder, det blir så här att man ser inte människor som tillgång, man ser människorna som belastning. Då blir det så här och folk vill ha någon man kan skylla sina tillkortakommande till.
The strong showing of the anti-immigration Sweden Democrats has taken many by surprise. They took nearly 13% of the vote, which translates into 49 seats.
Hörrni, ja, det har varit ju supervalår. Har ni känt av den? Det är valår och alla super. Eller hur? Det är ingen bryr sig. Vem fan bryr sig? På fulla salva. Vårt land, vi har slutat bry oss. Vi har slutat bry oss om varandra. Om vårt land. Vi skiter i hur det går. Barnen kan dra åt helvete. På fullaste allvar. Vi har förstört svenska skolan. Vi har gjort det nu i 20 år. Och det blir bara värre och värre. Och vi bara, jaha. Jag är vuxen nu.
The Swedish society was very welcoming, you know, but every country in Europe have betrayed their welfare system, and so have Sweden also. We need leaders that are speaking the truth, and the truth is not blaming on others. The things that Europe now experience is the fight of thoughts, of lacking of ideas instead of ideas. It has an identity crisis, and nobody's are solving any problem. What will Europe will be like in 50 or 100 years from now on? It should be based on education, to be an open society, to be a curious society. What is it to be a human person, a new kind of European? And I don't know what that is, but you should focus on that.
Jag har själv varit gift, jag höll bara i 1 år och 10 månader. Men alla hennes kompisar var så här, jag var gift med en svenska. Men du höll bara i 1 år och 10 månader. För alla hennes kompisar var så här, du ska inte vara gift med Öz. Han är muslim, han kommer aldrig släppa ut dig. Du kommer aldrig mer få se solen igen. Och Ja, men vad är det för fördomar? Jag har haft balkong hela tiden. Alltså. Nej, men det är...
Europe is so diverse. Cherishing this diversity, that should be Europe.
There's been so many immigrants coming to Sweden and just making our culture so much richer, more interesting. And I think that's definitely happening at Spotify, and I think it's a part of our success. We have over 60 nationalities in Sweden, so we keep recruiting from all over the world. Sweden has been a very good example of a country where it has really worked, receiving a lot of immigrants, but we still really have to work with integration of everyone. In Sweden, we have a good welfare system that can help you. Even if you stand there with nothing and no job, you will still not be left alone. But I also think that innovation and productivity and new ideas comes from when you have a buffer. The most important thing is to be not afraid of failure, but to try and fail, and then you try again, and that idea just takes off.
I don't know, I feel very Swedish right now, but I don't think a lot of other people think I am Swedish, so. Integration, as far as with Sweden, I think it needs more integration, but a lot of people are getting a bit tired of it. Especially Swedish people, they're becoming like annoyed with it. When I think about Europe, I think about us taking steps backwards, back into how it was earlier when people still were very narrow-minded and very racist, and I see that a lot in the politics right now, so I'm a bit worried about the future.
Hello again, folks. It looks like Amsterdam Schiphol is no longer accepting incoming flights. Apparently they've had a bit of a flooding problem. So we're going to be diverting to Paris Charles de Gaulle. Due to visa restrictions, German passport holders will not be allowed off the plane. The crew will do their best to make it comfortable.
Very sorry, sir, but it's not our fault and it's completely out of our hands.
Out of our hands! Please sit down. Please sit down. There is nothing we can do about this. It is out of our hands.
That's a book, isn't it?
It's an EU passport. Once upon a time, 500 million people had one of those. Can you imagine that? 500 million people able to cross each other's borders, experience each other's cultures, build new lives for themselves and their families.
But everyone wants those things, don't they?
Well, not back then. It was only after the British left the EU that they realised that they had the same old problems. Only they were made doubly worse by the fact that all the other countries were following suit.
I carry a European passport now. Why? Because that's the rule. I buy myself a cover for my passport, which I am instructed at the airport to remove. It just says British passport. But unfortunately, it didn't say English passport. I felt as if we were losing some of our independence of thought. I also used to find that I would be shouting at the television and decided there was no point in howling at the moon, so I thought do something about it. So I had a listen to the various politicians, and Farage, I'm afraid, was saying much of the things I'd been shouting at the television. So I joined, and I've been with them ever since.
Excuse me, sir. Where do you get the drinks from? From the bar. Cheers.
Through the house.
And all right, I accept that we have been pretty negative about the Brussels machine. But we haven't done it for the sake of it. We've done it because we believe we can be better off without it. We've done it because we have the self-confidence to believe in our nation, to believe in our people, to believe in our democracy, to believe in our birthright, to believe in that which was handed down to us by generations who fought in 2 world wars to defend it and make sure that we could be a free people.
The environmental health officer came on an inspection one day and slated me because of our buttergirls. And my reply to him was, the day you stop me making my buttergirls is the day we close the doors. Because it's eroding all the standards that we're used to, and what we at Walpole are trying to preserve the standards of the old days. And he said, but it's EEC regulation, whatever it was. I said, I don't care, I mean it. So we've actually compromised now, and during the day we still make our buttergirls, and I'm afraid they are made by hand. But we do have packet butters at breakfast that have got their dates on them. Yeah, and there we are. Do try. Thank you. 20 years ago, all these streets along here were tree-lined avenues, and it was a wonderful place to live, Charlotte. But you wouldn't know that now. All you see is the degradation, isn't it? And the problems that we experience, and Charlotte thinks it's always been like that. Well, those of us of the older generation want to see that return.
It was a happy place where you could get here quite readily from London and have a total change of outlook, a fun day at the seaside. They used to have sheds or huts on the beach where you could delicately sit and take the air. Sweet. A fun fair, but other things have gone. Basic downturn for seaside towns, and Margate was one of them, was that the cheap holidays to Spain, where you could guarantee that the sun would shine in the holidays, took off, and fewer people came to stay here on holiday.
I remember, in the beach, in the hotel, magic, in the people English, tourists, bla 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 bla.
¿Dónde está el profesor ahora?
En este momento, profesor está detrás de la guitarra.
Fantástico. Olé. Muy bien.
Remember the paella?
Paella. Remember.
You? Liverpool.
Liverpool.
Very good.
Good.
Four men in the English team.
Yeah.
Mexico. You ever been to England?
Yes, it's
No.
cognac español.
Would you like to go?
No.
No. Why? No paella.
No paella.
People got used to going abroad and did. A lot of hotels closed down. We lost a lot of that business. Would have happened anyway. That's got nothing to do with the European Union. Not everything is the fault of the European Union. Even I know that. Then government in England decided that they would offer the unemployed the opportunity to have dole at the seaside. So down came from other parts of the country, mostly from London, and lived here on the dole.
Hello, girls.
Gonna vote? Yeah, of course. We're British, mate. Of course we
Would you
are.
like to tell us for whom? And you don't have to.
Nah.
Okie doke.
Gonna keep that secret.
Yeah. And you're entitled
We're
to do
British,
that.
mate. Half this road is full of foreigners. There's about, it's like Spot the White down there, I think.
Why have we UKIP? Because we want better things for British people. We are over here struggling, and other families come over from different countries, get everything handed to them, and we are over here struggling. There's people living on the streets. We should sort our own people out before sorting out other people from other nationalities. No, the people come over here and work, that's fine. People that don't come over here and work, just a drain of society, you know what I mean? They take everything, our money, national health, everything. Homes. you know?
When do the politicians ever talk about the European Union during the year? They don't. Isn't it? So we don't really get any knowledge on it and what's going on. How many seats have they got in the European? You've got Nigel Farage, and that's about the only person I know as the only politician we've got for the UK. So I only know one party. Who else could I vote for in the European Unions?
I know many people going to vote for UKIP. I don't know if they're going to win. I hope they're going to win. Maybe we see a change.
Come out of the EU.
Yeah, that's what we need to do. Come out of the EU.
Hello. I'm a UKIP councillor for Kent County Council. I noticed your Union Jack. Keep calm, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Would you be a UKIP voter by any chance?
No, I don't vote.
Right, why is that?
Because none of you do what you say you're going to do.
Seems reasonable comment. Okay, thanks.
It is especially appropriate that we should open the Conservative campaign to keep Britain in Europe under your chairmanship, because...
Ted Heath signs a piece of paper and we are Europeans. In effect. No, we're not. My daily reading is the Daily Mail. Ukraine and Kiev, I don't know the ins and outs of that. I know what I read and I know what people tell me. But some of that is down to the fact that some of them want to join the European Union because the EU is also looking to expand its borders. I know not where its ambitions will end or even what its ambitions are, but certainly it has got bigger and bigger and bigger.
It's part of the rolling plan to get people into Parliament next year. Then we will, if we've got enough, we'll force them to have a straight in and out referendum. They won't want us to leave, but if the population say get out, we will get out. Would that I had a magic wand. But you have to be careful what you wish for.
It was a European, Auguste Comte, who first said that demography is destiny. And we know today that with our low birth rates, if we didn't have immigration, Europe's destiny would be a shrinking, aging population, which pretty much guarantees a declining economy.
Freedom of movement has been a huge success. And it's ironic that the often older UKIP voters are so resentful of the newcomers, because it is those people who will help pay their pensions. Migrants are often more entrepreneurial and dynamic and can help create jobs for local people. It is they who often work in the health service. Actually, older people in Britain and other European countries have the most to gain from freedom of movement.
We have a special relationship with the United Kingdom, and I think the UK's participation in the EU is an expression of its influence and its role in the world, as well as obviously a very important economic partnership. I will say this, that David's basic point that you probably want to see if you can fix what's broken in a very important relationship before you break it off. Makes some sense to me.
First we're breaking up, then we're making up. Now you're walking out
We want to be married to the rest of Europe whilst at the same time remaining single. It doesn't work. What would Britain lose if we came out of the European Union? We would lose the market where over half our trade is presently taking place. We would lose our place at the negotiating table that we have by being members of the European Union. I've knocked on the door in Beijing. I've come to negotiate access to China's markets for our exports. They negotiated with me because I knew that they needed access to Europe's 500 million strong market.
You've got to leave us on our own.
Si uno ve el mapa del mundo, Europa, ese pedacito, en 2060, el 5% de la población mundial. Si dividimos ese pedacito en 27 pedacitos, aunque algunos crean que teniendo 60 millones son grandes frente a los 1.300 millones de China, si lo dividimos en 20, 30 pedacitos, no significaremos nada.
So, what's this then?
I don't know, some sort of animal.
No, it's a beard. Belongs to Conchita Wurst. It was my particular heroine of 2014. When some homophobic Russians tried to kick her out of the Eurovision Song Contest, the whole of Europe were outraged, so they deliberately voted for her, so she won. Suits you. It was a clear, loud statement of diversity and tolerance. It was the first time that the whole of Europe had voted with one voice in the same way. An incredible 195 million people watched Conchita win.
So Europe, make some noise!
But later that month, during the elections for the EU Parliament, very few young people were interested enough to vote. So instead of bold new ideas and much needed reform, Europe turned back to the past.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is it. And now it's time to find out who the winner is. Germany. Sweden. Italy. United Kingdom. France.
People feel, but there's a distance between them and the decision takers. in the European Union, in Brussels. You know, they see the odd individual popping up every now and again on their television screen. They don't know who he or she is, where they've come from, what they do, and who they're answerable to. Certainly not, it would seem to them.
Vous êtes par exemple néerlandais. Les politiques menées par le gouvernement ne vous plaisent pas. Est-ce qu'il vous viendrait une seconde à l'idée de dire on va défaire les Pays-Bas? Non, on va changer le gouvernement. Eh bien, en Europe, les Européens réagissent en disant on va défaire l'Europe. Ce n'est pas parce qu'ils sont idiots, c'est qu'il y a un vrai problème de démocratie en Europe.
Nous avons besoin absolument de traiter la question de la légitimité démocratique, car plus on intègre, on renforce cette union, plus les citoyens, à juste titre, diront mais comment est-ce qu'on contrôle les décisions qui sont prises par nos gouvernements et à Bruxelles?
Dans les pays membres, vous pouvez, à l'occasion d'une élection, naturellement changer de gouvernement. Qui est le gouvernement de l'Union européenne? Ce n'est pas la Commission, c'est le Conseil européen, c'est-à-dire le conclave des 28 chefs d'État et de gouvernement. On ne peut pas renvoyer dans l'opposition un conclave. Et donc les Européens ont de plus en plus le sentiment que l'Europe est une dictature qui se substitue à leur démocratie. Ce n'est pas vrai.
You've got to create much stronger line of recognition, of visibility and accountability between those individuals and Europe's citizens as a whole.
Je pense que ça peut se faire à la fois en renforçant les contrôles à l'intérieur de chaque État pour que les citoyens soient informés et contrôlent ce que les gouvernements nationaux vont faire à Bruxelles, et puis que nous avons besoin d'avoir en effet un meilleur contrôle du Parlement européen sur les institutions européennes. Et en même temps, de marier ces deux contrôles démocratiques à certains moments clés à l'intérieur du Parlement européen, avec des représentants à la fois des gouvernements nationaux, enfin des parlements nationaux, pardon, et du Parlement européen.
The problem of the European leadership is that the national politics and the national politicians doesn't want to have European leaders. That was a sabotage already for a decade. And they choose the most, let's say, not charismatic people they could find. I wanted almost to throw a stone to the television. I thought, now you really show your national leaders that the European project is at the end, you have written it off.
Please remain calm. Your aircrew are working to rectify a fault. Please remain calm. Your aircrew are working to rectify a fault. Please remain calm. Your aircrew are working to rectify a fault.
To be brutally honest, so am I. But fear can make you value the important things in life. See this medal? Everyone laughed when the EU was given the Nobel Peace Prize. That's because they'd forgotten that before the EU, Europe was decimated with hundreds of years of war. In the 20th century alone, 50 million people, that's a tenth of the population, died in war. And then they were given medals like the VC or the German Iron Cross.
Also diese Worte von meinem Vater. Hier sind 4 Generationen. Mein Vater, mein Großvater, mein Urgroßvater. Sie haben alle in Frankreich, gegen Frankreich gekämpft. Sie sind alle verwundet worden. Sie haben alle eine Auszeichnung bekommen. Und das Wunderbarste jetzt ist, dass meine Söhne, meine Enkel so etwas nie wieder bekommen werden. So, das ist das Erste, das ist der Urgroßvater. Dann Nein,
das glaube ich nicht. Das
1813
dann
sind
ist die
die
gestiftet.
ja, Friedrich Wilhelm hat die dann gestiftet. Und das ist 1914.
Ja.
Das ist unser Großvater.
Das ist in Verdun gewesen, in Frankreich.
Das ist in Verdun und später ist er genau dort
verwundet
worden und hat sein Augenlicht verloren, ist blind. Und
das
dieses
ist das Ritterkreuz,
hier von unserem Vater.
Das ist aber
das
in
ist
Afrika.
Genau. Und jetzt, wenn wir das schön eng zusammenlegen, dann haben wir herrlicherweise ganz viel Platz und dieser wird nicht mehr gefüllt werden.
Wollen wir es hoffen.
Definitiv. Also, ich möchte Ihnen von einem Albtraum erzählen, den ich als 8-jähriges Kind in Luxemburg entwickelt habe. Und in diesem Traum kamen mir ausgemergelte Gestalten entgegen, die wie Tote aussahen und von denen ich sofort im Traum wusste, das waren Juden. Hinter ihnen martialisch aussehende Menschen mit Peitschen, von denen ich genau weiß, das sind die Nazis. Und ich sehe sie und ich weiß, ich muss diesen Leuten die Peitsche wegnehmen. Und in dem Moment, als ich loslaufen will, gucke ich mich noch einmal um und sehe aus einer offenen Haustür aus den kleinen Häusern meine Familie schauen. Und alle haben sie Gesichter wie von Edgar Munk, dieser Schrei. Und ich weiß, wenn ich denen jetzt die Peitsche wegnehme, dann kommen sie in die größten Schwierigkeiten und sie haben furchtbar Angst davor. Und bevor ich handeln kann, wache ich auf. Und ich habe keine Lösung. Ich habe meinen Eltern davon erzählt, natürlich. Und ich weiß ganz genau, dass ihre Antwort war, wir sind verantwortlich, wir Eltern. Aber du bist nicht verantwortlich für das, was geschehen ist. Aber du bist absolut verantwortlich für das, was kommen wird, für die Zukunft. Und dass wir als Deutsche immer den ersten Schritt machen müssen. Und ich muss sagen, dass langsam in diesen Jahren in Luxemburg, in dem Erleben, wie ich Freunde fand unter den Franzosen, unter den Italienern, unter den Luxemburgern, unter den Belgiern, langsam habe ich gewusst, gemerkt, erlebt, diese europäische Gemeinschaft, wirklich gelebt, ist der einzige Weg, um aus diesem Albtraum zu kommen.
The war in Ukraine is a wake-up call. Europe is not a postmodern la-la land. There are real security threats, and we need to cooperate much more in order to guarantee our security.
Well, we now have security challenges and actually civilizational challenges all around Europe's neighborhood, starting with Central African Republic and Mali, Libya, Egypt, Gaza, Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, Caucasus, the Balkans are hopefully on the way of being solved, and now Ukraine. So never has Europe, since the fall of communism, in my opinion, been so threatened, and never have we been so lacking in confidence as to how to respond to it.
I mi smo bili potpuno uvjereni da živimo u nekom normalnom životu, da se ti neki problemi koji su se počeli stvarati sa nacionalizmom u Srbiji i s druge strane nacionalizmom u Hrvatskoj, da će se to nekako riješiti. Nismo ni razmišljali da bi to moglo dovesti do rata. Pa, nacionalizam je donio strahovitu nevolju ljudima na našim prostorima i mnogo ljudi je poginulo, izgubilo bližnje, izgubilo svoje domove, da bi se na kraju opet uspostavilo da moraju živjeti jedni sa drugima. Znači negdje uzmeo film je bila ta granica između stvarnog života i posla koji radim. Znači isto kao što se zatvarač kamere otvori i zatvori, ja sam si postavio život tako, znači samo u ovom kratkom trenutku dok je on otvoren, to je za mene. Znači u trenutku kad se zatvarač zatvori, to je postala slika i tu je moj dio posla završio.
But I imagine that sometimes it just sleeps it open when you don't want to.
Of course. Yeah.
And what do you see then?
Naravno, kad se vratiš tim slikama, onda ti se to sve počne vrtiti, ali na području oko Srebrenice mogli su se vidjeti ovakve scene gdje su bilo da su to male ili velike masovne grobnice na površinu izbijale ostaci ljudi koji su pogubljeni u ratu. Pitaš se da li je ta njegova rodbina ikad saznala gdje je on, da li su ga ikad pronašli, da li još uvijek se smatra nestalim ili je identificiran. I onda kad to sve pomnožiš sa desetinama tisuća ljudi, malo to je onak strah svega. I onda si postavljam pitanje zašto, da li je to bilo vrijedno svega toga. Tko je tu šta dobio? Kako vrijeme prolazi, ljudi brzo zaboravljaju sve strahote koje su se dešavale, a pogotovo djeca koja su se rađala nakon rata i koja u školama ili uče vrlo malo ili skoro ništa o tom ratu. I tu dolazi do opasnosti da sve to prođe zaboravljeno i da se opet kroz neko dogledno vrijeme sve skupa ponovo zakuha na isti način. Da, dakle, ne znamo šta nam donosi budućnost Europske unije, to ćemo vidjeti, ali znamo šta je u sadašnjosti donijela Europska unija za otok Prvić. Ovaj memorijalni centar Fausta Vrančića koji je otvoren uz pomoć Europske unije. Predstavlja jedan fantastičan projekt koji promovira jednog čovjeka, vizionara koji je u vrijeme renesanse stvorio neke izume, doprinio je razmjeni ideja unutar različitih europskih gradova i država. Vrijeme kada Hrvatska ulazi u Europu podsjeća na kraj neke zabave kada dolaziš u 2 sata ujutro na zabavu i svi polako već odlaze kući, a ti si sretan da si napokon ušao.
We, the newer members of Europe, have sometimes greater faith in the project because we still remember what it was like not being able to live in a democracy. So I believe we are giving Europe a new confidence in her own values. And it seems to be so the further east you go, because to my knowledge, the biggest pro-European demonstrations in history took place in Kiev on the Maidan, when 800,000 people were demonstrating to get rid of a corrupt dictator because they wanted their country to be more European.
Я очень переживала за наших людей, за людей, которые умирали на Майдане. Им ничего не оставалось, как умирать, идти за Родину. И мне было очень жалко этих людей, которые, как бы это сказать...
Я, як українець, чую себе частиною Європи. Перше, з чим було пов'язане слово «Європа» – це якесь слово дуже близьке до мрії. Це там, де ми ще не є, але дуже хочемо бути. Тому з Європою пов'язані всі наші амбіції, мрії, бажання і бути тут, бути в спільноті європейських народів.
Слава Україні! Слава Україні! Слава Україні!
È paradossale che il sogno dell'Europa lo senti molto di più in un africano che affronta il Mediterraneo per arrivarci o nei popoli che sono fuori dall'Europa. Io ricordo una contadina ucraina che mi ha mostrato l'oceano di grano ondeggiante nel vento del suo paese e mi ha detto: guarda questo paese, amico mio, guarda com'è bello, potrebbe nutrire l'Europa intera. E ha pronunciato la parola Europa con una dolcezza, con un affetto che noi non siamo capaci di esprimere. Allora c'è questa doppia percezione in quelli che stanno fuori dall'Europa del nostro mito, della nostra ricchezza, della nostra realtà, che chiunque sorvola questo paese in aeroplano capisce che cosa siamo, questo grande promontorio proteso verso l'oceano, dove i popoli che arrivano da est si ammassano in qualche modo e non hanno altra possibilità che convivere se non vogliono suicidarsi. È questo che dobbiamo ritrovare, questa visione. Io vorrei che la parola Europa fosse pronunciata con la dolcezza di quella vecchia Ucraina.
Okay, we're going to attempt an emergency landing at Glasgow Airport.
which of course means that all English and Welsh passport holders...
Connection with source lost. Attempting
What does that
reconnection.
mean? They just abandoned us.
Lost.
Don't worry.
Reconnection. Connection with source lost.
They were old things. They can't help us.
This is how I was going to end my talk at the museum. It's a truly European invention.
What is it?
A parachute, invented by Fausto Ferrancio, remember? Come on, take it.
Don't you want it?
Don't worry about me. I'm history. They didn't care about me then. They certainly won't now.
Stay with us. Robert Peston presents a special State of the Union debate on Newsnight on the issues raised in the Great European Disaster Movie. That's coming up here on BBC4 in just a moment.